Hello, welcome to my other show. My name is Susan Rushton, and this is Muse. This is the show I get to talk to people who hear a muse, who are taught by a muse. All artists and writers and painters and quilters. My guest today is Sandra Bruce, master quilter. And do you call yourself a master quilter? Is that
no.
how one should? If I don't quilt, should I call you a master quilter?
I have no idea. I've never heard that term.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this beautiful quilt that you brought in, one of three beautiful quilts that you brought in today. Sandra, this is gorgeous. And this is Sandra Bruce, and her website is sandrabruce.com. And if you want to learn more about her quilting and about her activities, she has a Facebook page, and that's indicated on your website. Mm-hmm. It's just a wonderful bunch of fascinating stuff about quilts and you and your work. Why are you a quilter, Sandra?
Why am I a quilter? I think because it marries all the things that I love to do into one activity.
So what are those things?
Well,
sewing.
Sewing, yeah. And I've always loved fabric and color. And I've made my living for over 30 years as an illustrator and lettering artist. And so that is incorporated into it as well.
Wow. Okay. So you've been doing this for 30 years?
No, I've been quilting. Let's see, the very first quilt I made was probably in 1987.
Okay. What got you started?
Well, I became the very fortunate next door neighbor to Therese May when I lived in San Jose. Therese May is a very renowned
If I were a quilter, I'd know who she was.
Yes, you would. Yeah, she has been around doing quilting for a long time, and we became friends, and I was intrigued by what she was doing, and so we started a group. So there were 16 of us, and we each took a turn every month telling everyone else in the group what we wanted, and so they would come back the next month with whatever we asked for. And so by the end of the 16 months, each of us had a quilt that was made in part by everyone in the group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still have that quilt?
I do.
Good.
I do. It's a Christmas quilt, so I hang it at Christmas. But it's tied because I didn't at that time know how to quilt. And quilting is literally the joining of the three layers of a quilt, which is the technical. Right. That's the technical description of a quilt. It's when you have three layers that are sandwiched together and sewn.
So the backing, the stuff in the middle,
the batting,
and the cover.
Right.
If
the top.
Top.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got started, and then we moved to Grass Valley in 1990, and I really started in earnest to take classes and learn what I could. And I started out pretty much as a traditional quilter, but I segued into art quilting, and that's really the thing that I love to do.
Define traditional quilting.
Traditional quilts are quilts that are patterns that have been around for a long time.
Okay.
That have been made by
great-grandmother to grandmother to, okay.
Right.
And we could, all of us, I can imagine, can recognize a traditional quilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you could.
Definite.
Yes, the angles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the very first quilt that I made after taking a class was hand-pieced and hand-quilted, which just about nobody does that anymore. But that means you're actually sewing the little pieces together by hand, and then you're doing the sandwiching, the sewing by hand. By hand. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very time-consuming.
Yeah. Instead of with a machine or on a machine. Okay.
Right. And I also have a long arm quilting business in Grass Valley.
Define a long arm.
Okay,
please.
Well, it doesn't mean
no.
long arms.
Okay.
People ask me that. You have long arms? So a long arm quilting machine, it looks like a big giant sewing machine. And the throat, which is the space that is on the inside
Okay.
is very big.
Very okay.
Yeah, and it's on, the one that I have is on a 14-foot long table.
Okay, so you could put this on there.
Yes, I could put anything up to 130 inches. I could do a really big quilt.
Okay.
And I do sometimes.
Yes.
But the difference between a long arm sewing machine and a regular sewing machine is when you're doing regular sewing, your machine is stationary and you are moving the quilt around. Whereas on a long arm, the quilt is attached to rollers and it stays stationary, but the machine, which is on these 2 tracks, it moves. And so they're handles, so you look like you're piloting a drone. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
So you are moving the machine around.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so that's how you made this.
Yes, correct.
All right. So since this is the first one we're looking at, I know that you made this, you have this photograph of this girl. And then what did you do?
I took the photograph and I had it in my computer and I put a grid over it.
Okay.
And that's the only time that I used my computer. And I must mention that the inspiration for this came from my love of the painter Chuck Close. Chuck Close is one of the top 10 living American artists now, and he paints huge portraits of people where he takes a photograph, he puts a grid on it, and he paints each square with circles so that when you stand back, your brain kind of puts it together,
okay.
and you
Yes.
and you get it. And so the first time I saw one of his paintings in person, I was just really struck at how it reminded me of a quilt, and so that sort of planted the seed.
I could do this. I could. Look what the sort of thing I could do. Wow. Yeah.
So,
now is this
yes.
the first? So the impression I'm getting is that you are the first person to do this.
In the exact way that I do it, I think so. I've never seen anyone else do it, so there may be, but if there is, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not aware of it. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that this is so clearly a young girl with blue eyes and a grin and
There's the picture
okay
on the back.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
So
all right.
it looks very much like her. It does.
Yes, I can imagine. Does she think so?
I
Maybe.
think so.
Yeah, 'cause she's 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How long did this take you?
It's really hard to say because I do so many things and I don't really have big chunks of time that I can devote to it. I just finished.
Oh, please say that again. You don't have big chunks of time that you can devote to it.
Yes.
Yet you did this. You did it. You didn't lose interest. You kept at it, even though you don't have big chunks of time to devote to it.
And I've done much bigger ones. I just finished one that's 60 by 70. And it took me all summer, but I was working in the morning.
Only all summer. My gosh. Sandra, gee
so I
whiz.
was working between 6 a.m. and 7, and then after dinner at night and on weekends. And so I don't keep track of the hours. It's not important to me. So it takes what it takes.
All right. Was this your first one?
No, my first one was my self-portrait, which
Okay.
is 80 inches square.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yes, you're on. I have a friend named Robin, and she has a picture of it, and it's on your website too.
Correct,
isn't
it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I look at you and say that it's you say it's a self-portrait, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one I did, which was kind of crazy, but to go right to 80 inches. But I was trying to really be inspired by Chuck Close, and he does very large paintings, so I felt like I really needed to make it big.
Yeah.
And so I just started at the top and went left to right in rows, top to bottom, and I really had no idea at first how I was going to do it or what I was doing, but by the time I got down to about here on the picture, I sort of got in the hang of it.
I get it.
Yeah.
I see how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Have you improved as
Yes.
far as
I think so.
these photographic kinds of things?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I think as I have gained experience, the images are less wonky. And when I say wonky, I'm talking about the way things don't really match up, which is okay.
Okay.
The lines don't
You
match
have
up.
high standards for your work,
Well,
lady. And I don't blame you. I understand.
when I did the self-portrait, I was thinking about Chuck and his paintings and how he's doing a totally different medium, and he's painting circles, which is totally different than what I'm doing. But when you look up close, it does not make sense. You have to stand back to see it, and so I was trying to sort of emulate that concept. So my self-portrait, which is the first one, is the most wonky, and I'm getting less wonky as I'm going along, and I'm not sure how I feel about it because there's something kind of magical about what happens in that quilt, and I'm still sort of figuring that out.
How to be more, how to do it better and still be a little wonky?
Yeah, it's almost like I've gone full circle, and now I have to make myself.
Perfect,
yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so.
And well, also you don't want to you don't want to do work and then spend hours taking it out.
Oh no,
no.
No, I love my seam ripper, but I
it's nice somebody invented that. Yeah. Okay. So, do you think you're a good quilter?
I'd say yes, I do.
Good. What does it take to be a good quilter?
I think being a good quilter has to do with construction, of course, eye to detail, composition, color.
Planning. Apparently. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. You can't just suddenly start one day. I suppose one could, but that's what you need the seam ripper for. Let's take a look at another one.
Sure, okay. I have a couple other ones. This one's called Mr. Cardinal.
Oh yeah.
Because I wanted to see how small I could go in this technique. So I do have actually one or two that are smaller than this, but this is pretty small for this technique. So I had a photograph that my friend took of a cardinal, and it was actually a girl. And the girls in the bird world, they're brown. They're not pretty like the boys. So I took a red pencil and colored in the picture and made it a male. So
was this done after?
No, way before.
Okay. Okay.
In fact, this is maybe the third one that I did. So he's sitting on a bird feeder.
That's wonderful.
Maybe we can show the back.
Okay. And here's your...
So you can see the stitching pretty well.
Yes. I don't know how well the viewers can see it, but it's certainly there. Yeah. Now, when we exchanged emails, you were very kind, very polite to me. My question was, how is quilting in the 21st century different from several centuries ago? And or why are you? No, that's not it. My question was, why do you do something that is so old-fashioned? And wanting to get a rise out of you, wanting to hear, she's going to tell me something. And you said there are aspects of the 21st century quilting that bear no resemblance to that's not old-fashioned. It isn't old-fashioned at all. And one of the ways I can imagine is that you have these long arm sewing machines that our great grandmothers didn't have the privilege of being able to use, or even to imagine. Maybe I'll bet they did imagine it, but they just didn't have them. You like color, you like arranging, you like planning, you like art, but you could do this sort of thing without fabric, couldn't you?
I guess I could paint
Yeah.
or do paper collage,
But you don't want to.
but I love fabric.
Yeah.
I do, and I love commercial fabric too, because a lot of art quilters just use hand-dyed fabric, which tends to be more solid. But I think commercial fabric is so much fun, because there's just so much. There's so much out there. The selection is mind-boggling. What's available these days in fabric, and that's one way that it's really, the whole industry has really changed.
And these kinds of fabrics, this variety of fabric is found in basic stores and not just quilting stores, quilting fabric.
Well, it depends on the store. I mean, if they sell fabric, they're going to have interesting,
Great, gorgeous stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how long have you lived in Grass Valley?
Since 1990.
Okay. And what is it? You work for a living?
Well, as I said, I've been an illustrator and letterer for over 30 years. But it was about 6 years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago, that I bought the long arm. So I am slowly segueing away from the illustration, because the whole industry has really changed due to computers and many other factors. And it's just, at this time in my life, this is what I want to do. So.
Yes.
And I teach a lot, too. I teach this technique.
Where?
So I just got back from Snohomish, Washington. I go to Southern California. I've been to Las Vegas. So pretty much just the West Coast at this point. But
how do they find out about you?
several ways. By Facebook. That's how I got my Las Vegas gig. Also, I belong to NCQC, which is a Northern California Quilt Council. And so they have an event a couple times a year where representatives from quilt guilds go, and teachers get up and they get 3 minutes to say, this is what I do. And you have a table, and then they come back and say, are you free a certain time? And so they send me a contract, and off I go. And I enjoy it. It's fun.
Yes, yes. And my reaction to something like this is, oh my God, is a veteran quilter's reaction the same as, oh my God, mine?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. It depends on the veteran quilter. I can imagine that I don't sew for the most part. Even so, I know that this takes time. I know it takes skill and vision and planning, and time, and talent, and it's amazing. I can imagine that that veteran quilters do this in addition to, pardon me. Oh gosh. Well, this is interesting. I beg your pardon, everyone. My microphone fell off. So you get to see Susan reaching down her shirt. So I would like to see this one.
Okay.
Let's see this.
This is the second one that I did.
The second
after my self-portrait. And this is a photograph of my son Mateo that I took on a vacation. And I wanted to try a profile.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
there he is
he's smelling an amaryllis, which has no smell, but
okay.
He didn't know that.
Wow. That's sweet.
Thank you.
Yes. What does he think?
Well, he's 17 now. So I've done another one of him since then that has a little more attitude. He likes that one better, I think. But he likes this one.
He likes attitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
hey, look at me, Mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much going on here.
Well, I was talking about the different kinds of fabrics, and you can see what I mean from this.
Yes.
How there's the prints that are available are just really wonderful. And batiks, there's lots of batiks.
Yeah.
That are wonderful.
Now, from what I gather, this has changed in the past 20 years. The types of fabrics available or the variety.
Yes, and fads kind of come and go with
Yeah.
fabric, and I work one day a week in a fabric store in Grass Valley.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, called Sugar Pine Quilt Shop.
Okay.
So I get to help customers, and UPS comes every day that I work and brings us new things. And
And
so,
I can imagine that you run to open them. Oh,
yeah,
what's
yes.
next? What next? What
Yes,
next? Okay.
yes, it's true.
Cool. So, what advice do you have for beginning fabric people, quilters, sewers, people who work with fabric?
Well, I think my main suggestion for beginners would be to try a lot of different things, because there's so many avenues that you can go down. I mean, it's not just art quilts versus traditional. There's a lot in between. There's so many things have come into being. There's so many ways to go with it. And the only way that you find out what you're good at and what you enjoy doing is by trying different things. I see people kind of get in a groove and they just do the same thing all the time. And I'm doing this pretty constantly now, but someday I'm going to go and do something else.
Okay.
But I think that's really an important thing to do, because it's the only way to figure out what you love to do.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things you don't like about quilting?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Is it easy?
Yeah, the answer to that is math.
Explain that, please.
Well, there is math involved, because you have to figure out, for the back of the quilt, you have to figure out how much you need. So you have to measure, and it comes in certain widths, and you have to do math. So, and I don't use that side of my brain quite as well.
Okay, but there's. All right, I'm looking at this, but isn't the back of this one big piece?
It is, because it's not a very big quilt. But when you have
It isn't a very big quilt.
Because fabric comes in 42-inch widths.
Say that again. It's not a very big quilt.
No.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't cover a bed over the side.
No. I mean, you have a 130-inch quilt that goes on a king-size bed. You're going to have to buy quite a bit of fabric to piece together for the back.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I'm working at Sugar Pine sometimes, and I'm helping customers, they'll want to deviate from, they'll have a pattern for something they want to make, and they want to deviate, and I have to help them figure it out, and that's the part I don't like. But
you have to help them with their math.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the things you like? Some of the things you like best about quilting?
Oh goodness, it's very
I can imagine
contemplative.
Contemplative? Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
I'm happy when I have a needle and thread in my hand.
Have you always been happy with a needle and thread in your head? Mm-hmm. Wow.
My mother taught me to sew when I was about 7, and she had an old Singer treadle machine, and I made my clothes in high school, and so I've sewn most of my life, and yeah, I'm happy with the needle and thread.
Wow. Wow. I'm not envious. I'm impressed, because I hate to sew. I will postpone as long as possible going upstairs and hemming or doing something on my sewing machine, as long as possible, even though it just like that, it is done. But do you have a room of your own?
I do.
Oh, that's nice.
I do. In fact, I have a room of my own for what I do at home when I'm sewing things like this. And then my long arm, because it's so big, I had to rent a space in downtown Grass Valley.
Oh my!
To put her in. I call her Dixie.
Okay.
So Dixie has a home in downtown Grass Valley, and so I have a little studio away from the house as well.
Nice, nice, and that's a good excuse to get away. That's great.
And my customers meet me downtown, because I do quilt for customers as well as myself.
All right. Now, you have been interviewed by quilting bloggers, or at least one quilting blogger, and I'm assuming that you sell your stuff, sell your work.
I have not yet.
I'm impressed. I'm
I-
surprised, actually.
Well, I don't think I really have quite enough pieces yet. So I'm working on, I want to have a really good body of work. And because it's time consuming, that I can't just
Yeah.
make them happen. I can't do a quilt in a day. There is such a thing, you know, where you can actually piece something in a day.
One could do that.
Yes.
But
I mean, not like this, but
You need here's an hour and here's another hour the way you work. Could you do a quilt could you do a quilt in 2 hours in a day?
I could if it was just a super simple where I'm just doing squares or something so basic that it just would take no time to do, but I'm not interested in that.
Right. Okay.
So.
Do you belong to the quilting guild in
I do.
Grass Valley?
I belong to several groups. I belong to the Pine Tree Quilt Guild, which is the guild in Grass Valley.
Okay.
And we have our show in May, every May.
Oh, nice.
I belong.
May. So this is 2015, and so you've already had your the quilt show, and I think we're about done.
Oh,
my goodness. This is amazing. Sandra Bruce, thank you very much for joining me. I've learned more than I expected. No, I'm not more than I expected. I always expect to learn a lot. But this is wonderful. I really appreciate your coming in and talking to me about this. And if you want to learn more about Sandra or quilting or places to go, please log on to sandrabruce.com. She is in Grass Valley, and she would be delighted to talk to you. Thank you very much for watching Muse. I will see you again.